The Bully Hunter. A killer of a read indeed. Stimulating controversy at its best. As unique, original, and as gruesomely detailed as Thomas Harris's Silence of the Lambs. This is the tale of the Bully Hunter, from a humble beginning in the poverty-stricken tenements of a concrete jungle in Liverpool, England, to an expensive heritage home in an affluent suburb in Sydney, Australia, without ever doing an honest day's work. Covering murders in Liverpool, England, to blood in the sun in Australia. If you are of the morbid curiosity type, or can handle gruesome descriptions, then you will love this story for its detail. It is shocking and riveting, alarming and detailed, plus it has informative explanations into some of the more common forms of crime and its practices. This is an original and unique account of one previously unknown serial killer's activity and methods he used, and him being a ruthless vigilante, but without doubt, with a hard case to argue against. Taking us into another world that is always around us, but very seldom recognized and often going unnoticed. Even though he will admit to the level of his own hypocrisy, how can he do what he does, claiming to protect innocence through murder? Yet he espouses that he saves lives by taking lives? He will still insist that what he does and the hypocrisy involved is something that he can justify and comfortably live with, and there will simply be no equalization regarding the matter. This book is dedicated to all the victims of child abuse. The Bully Hunter. By H.K. Mayfield. Introduction. What's it all about, Alfie? Sitting in a dank, depressing police office, shoved into the tight confines of a dingy, badly lit building in the cold case section of the Liverpool City Police Department, during the freezing British winter, is Paul Christopher Hanbury, a 39-year-old university graduate, with honors in law and forensic investigation. He is married with 2 young children. He is the son of a mechanic, Charles Charlie Hanbury, a large, red-haired Scotsman who is extremely proud of his son Paul's academic achievements and his position in the police force. However, he had not had a meteoric rise up the ranks to make detective sergeant. Paul Hanbury was going through a personal hell. His father, although being relatively still young at 69 years of age, was in the late stages of suffering from Alzheimer's disease, and it was heart-wrenching and extremely taxing on him to have to witness and endure the destructive ravages of his father's illness take away such a decent, loving, and hard-working man. But just like with his mother Alice, Hanbury's love, admiration, and respect for him would never wane, just like his feeling of unwarranted abandonment. He was not after pity, therefore he tended to keep his personal life to himself and not discuss the matter with his work colleagues. His wife Pamela was his crutch and his support. Without her he couldn't manage. Although she was a registered state nurse, the impact of Charlie's disease on their family of 4, Paul, Pamela, Jody, and Samuel, did not insulate or immunize them from the psychological trauma or upheaval they had to experience. Paul Hanbury has had more than his fair share of disappointments and letdowns by the department, due to the archaic attitude of some of the senior administrators who would pooh-pooh his university training, along with revolutionary investigative methods that he extolled and truly believed in. He was as straight and honest as a die. He was also one of those men who enjoyed a difficult challenge. From the day he arrived at the police training college he was ribbed about his initials, PC, which meant police constable there. The same manner and attitude followed him throughout his current career, so he had been addressed by his senior commanding officers and to the police on the plot as Hanbury, or PC. It was very rare for him to be addressed as Paul. He had eventually been assigned to the city police cold case team consisting of only 7 members, but with hands-on Inspector Joe Stewart, who genuinely believed that their team could make headway and solve some old cases with the help of modern technology in the field of forensic science. Plus, he would always support and back his team. After years of Hanbury tossing and turning as to whether he should leave the police force or to stick it out and hope for improvements in the job and his personal standing, for the last couple of years or so he had been moderately happy since becoming a member of the small tight group of fellow investigators in the cold case division. One of them, Detective Alf Tennyson, looked as if he was a bone idle sod, as he was often seen immersed in crossword puzzles, especially the cryptic ones. He was a master at these and solving them was his thing. But when hard or hot on the trail of an inquiry, he was as vigilant, thorough, and tenacious in his pursuit of usable evidence as anybody else on the team. He was far from being a lazy bastard. One of the cases that Hanbury was assigned to investigate was one randomly picked by Inspector Joe Stewart, off his desk which was bulging with them. It was a crime of murder that had lain unsolved for 40 years. It was the case of a local Liverpool man who was known to have a vicious reputation and was also considered a pedophile. He had been charged with sexual offenses against children, but he had been acquitted at trial through lack of evidence. He had been beaten viciously and had his eyes pushed back so deeply in the sockets that they were not discovered until the time of autopsy, such that it looked like the workings of Jack the Ripper on his last incredibly gruesome murder of Mary Kelly, an unfortunate prostitute. The press of the time described it as a demonic act of evil and sadism. Hanbury thought to himself, then called out rhetorically to Alf Tennyson, "What's it all about, Alfie?" alluding to the old hit movie Alfie starring Michael Caine. There was little to go on, if anything. There were no witnesses, no obvious evidence of the weapon or weapons used, and no foreign DNA found on the body. Where the hell was he going to start, he thought. He checked the location of the murder, but it had long had a block of snazzy-looking townhouses built on it. He referred to old maps from the time of the murder so as to pinpoint the position that the body had been found in. He discovered that it was under the now existing number 8 townhouse, and he decided to investigate if the floor of the townhouses were of a concrete slab construction, or if they had wooden floorboards. He decided to save the time involved locating and examining the plans for the townhouses and simply walked up to the door of townhouse 8 and knocked on the door. The door was opened by the resident, and Hanbury asked the guy what sort of floor structure he had in the house. He was told floorboards, and then asked why. He informed the guy of what his name was and that he was an investigating police officer with the Cold Case Division. The guy thought for a minute and then told Hanbury that he did recall a rumor after moving in that a murder had been committed on the previously empty site, yonks and yonks ago, but he didn't know where on the site. He did say, however, that the name of Roman Gambale had been mentioned occasionally, the son of a local Anglo-Italian family who may have had something to do with it, or been a part of it somehow, as he was supposed to be known as a robber and a violent lowlife with a drug habit. Hanbury then asked the guy would he mind if Hanbury made an appointment to climb under and examine the still dirt foundations that lay underneath the townhouse. The guy told him sure, and gave Hanbury his telephone number and told him to call when he wanted to do it. Hanbury thanked him very much and left to return to the office, at least pleased that he could have a search of the murder location, although the chances of realistically finding any evidence would be microscopically slim. However, there was also some sort of lead, he thought, in the name Roman Gambale, and research into him and his background was about to begin in earnest. Hanbury imagined that he could smell the scent of discovery after tracking down Roman Gambale, holed up in Walton Prison, serving a long stretch and seemed to be running out of petrol, and Hanbury wanted to question him regarding any knowledge that he may have regarding the murder. Gambale insisted that he was under arrest at the time of the murder, but in reality he had been bailed for the offense that he was charged with earlier than thought and was actually free and out on the street committing robbery. When Hanbury asked him if he knew of any suspects in the case, Gambale had said, "Try a guy called Morgan."